Yes, hello. We are not getting started yet. I'm just saying hello to everybody as people are coming in. I see y'all in the comments. Make sure you are saying hello to everyone and not just the host and panelists. We want you to be in the chat if you are auntie. What kind of auntie are you? Are you the sexy auntie, the fun auntie, the corporate, the good job travel auntie? Hey, auntie. You know, if you got a favorite auntie, miss your aunt, shout her out. We want to hear from you.
It won't take me far. I'm living my life like it's golden. 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 Golden. Living my life like it's 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 golden. Golden. I'm taking my own freedom, putting it in my song, singing loud and strong, grooving all day. Putting it in my stroll. I'll be hot stepping, y'all, letting the joy unfold. I'm living my life like it's golden. 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 Golden. Living my life like it's golden. Living my life like it's golden. Living my life like it's golden.
Hello, welcome. Hey. Okay, my daddy's in the house. Daddy, please respond to everyone, not just host the panelists. Welcome. My mom said my aunties always bought me clothes that my parents could not afford. Praise the Lord. Christina says she's a quirky auntie. She said she's a supportive auntie that has her baby's back. I heard that. Here. Auntie Beat and Bake says she is the makeup and beauty auntie. BC said Auntie Crafty saying hey from ATL. Hey! Emily says I'm the auntie that gives books for Christmas. Ebony, no. Just kidding, books are great. I do work at the library. Like I said, I'm the spicy auntie, and you'll see why during my story. Hey! Oh, Christina said I would have loved having my auntie giving me books at Christmas. Oh, that's sweet. Kristen Jackson says, everyone to my nieces, I'm the rich auntie. Ooh, yeah, we think all our aunties are the rich auntie. Hello, I would like to officially welcome you all tonight. My name is Diana Vega, and I am the producer and host of tonight's show of Telling Stories. I started this project when we were in the height of the quarantine pandemic times. And I was like, you know what, I need to give myself a little project because I was bored. So we had our first storytelling show is called Press, Stories About Getting Your Hair Did in October 2020. We've had several virtual shows after that, and we had one live show as well. And so this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience, and we are so happy to be here tonight. The show is free to all, but we are taking donations. A portion of the proceeds will go to National Bailout, and you'll hear more about them later. But they work to bail out Black women for Mother's Day. So I'm going to post a donation link. I'm going to post it a lot of times like a Black preacher, okay? Be like, send them coins in. So we have the donation link. And so I just wanted to welcome everyone tonight. And one of the storytellers, she said, why did you pick aunties? And I said, well, Because mamas is good. Something as great as your mama can be, mothers can be a complicated relationship. I knew I wanted to do a Mother's Day themed show, but mamas can bring up a lot of feelings, sometimes sadness, sometimes joy, all the things. But I hope that everybody watching or everyone who's here, has at least one cool auntie that you love. When you think about your auntie, you're like, yes. Um, and I tweeted in August 2021, I so tweeted, aunties are so dope because aunties can do for you whatever and love you however your mother would. But on the flip side, you can tell your auntie things you'd never tell your mama. And that is the sweet spot. And so that's really why I wanted to do this show to shout out our aunties. And I said, my next tweet, I said, I want to do a show dedicated to our aunties. And it took us a while to get here, but we are here. And so, your auntie don't got to be blood. It could be your mama's best friend, a former teacher, your favorite church lady, the woman at your job who, brought you pound cake and had your back. Just somebody who supported you, loved you, and looked out for you. And honestly, I wasn't even going to do this show. I had got my storytellers together, but I have so much going on, and usually I like to do a coaching session and promote more. And I was like, I'm not ready. I'm gonna reschedule it. But honestly, I thought perfect is the enemy of good. And I said, we're gonna do this show. We have some amazing women who are gonna tell their stories, and we need this show. There's a lot going on in the world. We just got the Roe v. Wade news, and I am a firm believer that we need to continue to put goodness and light into the world. And so I hope that's what this show is for you tonight. So I just want you all to settle in, be engaged in the comments section. Remember to choose to reply to everyone, not just hosts and panelists, so we can see your comments. Give our storytellers their kudos and shout outs. Share your favorite memories about your aunties. We're virtual and we're all online, but I want it to feel like we are together, just feeling the love, the auntie love. So before I bring up our first storyteller, I want to just set the stage, as it were, give a little homage. My mom, I talk about it a lot. She has four sisters. But before I can even get to those, my grandmother has a lot of sisters too, my great aunties, but you don't say great aunties, those all still your aunties, right? So if we start with the great auntie level, I had so many aunties that I could look up to, but one of my favorite was my auntie Louvenia. She apparently in back in the day, she was she was okay, she was the it girl, okay. But I just know her always being sexy and feisty, and she used to say, if a man honks, she'd be like, "I see your horn honks. Try your brakes next time," right? And so that auntie taught me to be true to yourself no matter your age. And then moving on to my other great auntie, my auntie Bessie, who I did not meet for a long time because she lived in Nigeria. Now, my mother's family is from Alabama. My mother's from the big city of Selma. My grandmother's from the country of Summerfield. And I never understood how my great auntie ended up in Nigeria. She married a Nigerian man in the 50s, and she moved over there and she made a life over there. And I just thought that was so amazing. And I remember my grandmother said that they'd be picking cotton and a plane would fly by, and my auntie would say, "I'm going to fly on you one day." And she did, and she made it to Nigeria. So aunties inspire you to fly. Now, moving to my mom's sisters, I always talk about my Auntie Janice being really the inspiration for me being a storyteller, because she was the best storyteller in my family. This makes my other aunt, Auntie Shirley, mad. We'll get to her in a minute, because she's like, "You never talk about me." But my Auntie Janice, she was the fun auntie, the cool auntie, to take you shopping auntie, all you just kiki with auntie. And she passed away 5 years ago. And so the last time that we spoke to each other, when I saw her in the hospital, she sat up in the bed and she said, "What you gonna do with your life when I'm gone?" And I was like, "Who ask that? And why do you even want to know? Because you gonna be dead. So why does it matter to you? But that question really stayed with me. And her asking that question, I think, has brought me to this place that we are today. So aunties challenge you. Now I'm going to move to my Auntie Shirley, the one who's always mad that I'm talking about my Auntie Janice. My Auntie Shirley is also my godmother. And the thing that I remember most about her is that she was always there. She was there the day I was born. She used to babysit me and my brother every Thursday night, and we'd watch Cosby Show. And I guess my parents were out having date night. Who knows? Who knew when we were 6 years old? We didn't know. I remember I have fond memories of her just us walking up to the store and taking us to the Chinese spot to eat, just hanging out with her, and that being just grounded in that sense of place and love. And so aunties are a constant. My mother's other sister, my Auntie Angie, she was like our after school mom. She moved to Maryland. I was about 11 years old, and she took care of my brother and I when my mom was at work. And she was kind of the auntie. She didn't really, ask any questions of you if you got in trouble. She always like would take your side and have your back. And I had a rough time in high school. I was out in these streets just being a mess to the point that my parents were fed up. And you know where I went to stay? With my Auntie Angie. Well, really, she wasn't even home. She was hanging with her boo thing. But she opened her home to me and let me be there and, away from my parents and all of that. And so aunties are a soft place to land. And then finally, I want to shout out my Auntie Vivian, who is my aunt by marriage. But she and I, we've always had a bond. She would do my hair. And I remember the summer I spent in Selma, I'd be sitting between her legs and she'd be pressing my hair out for church. And at that time, I was getting these really strong headaches. And I would tell her, and she would say, "Oh, you know what? It sounds like your cycle is about to start," because that's what happened to me. Was getting these headaches right before my cycle started. And so summer ended and melted into fall. And around late September, October, my period did start. And it wasn't just that my auntie was right. What I realized later on, as I got older, is that she listened to me. And that is so important, right? Especially as a child, that you don't get dismissed, that you have someone who hears you. And so aunties make you feel heard. And so, with that being said, we are going to hear some great stories tonight. I am so excited for tonight's show and to bring up our first storyteller. This is her second time on the stage. She was in our first show pressed. She is from the MI Cricket Letter. Y'all know the rest. But she then moved to Houston. And so Houston is like her adopted home. She's also a master baker. This is what I can glean from the pictures that she posts on the things that she bakes, and they look delicious. And so I'm so excited. Please welcome LaShonda Saverson to the stage.
Hello, how are you? How is Hello, everyone. I'm going to tell you a quick story about my aunt Laverne. She was the anomaly in the dynamic of my mom's sisters. She was literally the life of every party, and she caused her siblings to cringe almost every time they were assembled. And it gave me life because my family, they conform to certain norms in accordance to religion and what they were taught to be demure women. My auntie was having none of that. She was loud, she was bold, and some of my favorite childhood memories were centered around her coming from Chicago back home to Mississippi. Aunt Laverne, like so many others, left the South to go look for better opportunities up north. She moved to the south side of Chicago. She raised two girls, and she was the second oldest, but she was the most vocal of my mom's puritanical siblings, I guess is the best way to describe them. When everyone else seemed they were schooled in social graces and gender roles, she was not so inclined to follow any of those norms. She smoked like a chimney. She sipped the darkest of liquor. She played the blues at ear-piercing decibels. You would often see her hips swaying to and fro. She mastered what I called the South Side cuss out. Nobody could cuss like my auntie Laverne could cuss. She had the ability to pick people apart and to read them for filth in a way that no one else could. She looked for opportunities to cuss people out. And it made for fun trips to the grocery store, because she would cuss out everybody from the butcher to the person who rung her up and any passerbys who dared to intervene. And so I just enjoyed and loved watching her so much because of the way she moved through the world with like this reckless abandon. Like she was just her own person and so secure in her skin and always willing to advocate for herself. I guess that's why I loved her so much, because every time we left the house, it was an adventure. Auntie Laverne was gonna get into it with somebody from her door or from my mom's door in Mississippi to wherever our destination was. And I think my favorite, as I started to recollect about this story, I think like the favorite memory I have about my aunt was in preparation for my sister's wedding. She was taking her notoriously sweet time getting dressed. And as often would happen, her sisters, who were all punctual women and just, again, conforming to social norms and graces, they refused to be late to go anywhere. So they would often leave my Aunt Laverne, and they departed so they wouldn't be late because my mom was the mother of the bride. And so as we're like assembled at the front of the church at the altar in this small Mississippi country church, the doors flung open and my auntie said, "You hoes left me." In the middle of my sister's wedding rehearsal. My mom was mortified. She literally melted into the pew. But I got in trouble from dying of laughter. It was the funniest thing I think I had ever witnessed. And my aunt didn't care about graces, be social graces, religion, or the fact that there was a man holding a Bible who was standing at the front of the church with the happy couple. She said, "You hoes left me," from her soul. And my mom and her sisters were mortified. And I don't understand the psychology of what made her so uniquely different from my mom, her four other sisters, and her two brothers. All I know is that if you needed someone to be loud, because sometimes you actually need that loud, rambunctious voice. If you needed someone to be loud, she was your girl. And she didn't need any reinforcements. She had it all by herself. She was so Southside. She was so the Chicago. But what I loved about her, and I think Diana alluded to this with the description of her aunties, is that aunties pour into you sometimes things that, you know, other people simply do not or cannot. Despite her tongue lashing, she showed an immense amount of love towards me and all of my first cousins. No one could fry chicken like her. She would spin you around on her feet to the sounds of Bobby Blue Bland. She would always slide money into your palms, or if there was an outfit that she gleaned that my mom may not have been as approving of, she always found a way to like if she didn't get it, maybe make a slight amendment to it to make it more suitable for my mom's taste. And in my early adult years, when I was promoted to their chauffeur, I would drive her and my mom and whomever, like some of the other sisters, to either Memphis or Philadelphia, Mississippi to gamble. And it was the only time my mom would participate in such, tawdry activities. And I love that she was such an unabashed bad influence. Like, I am that friend. I'm going to tell you to do that thing. And she was like a bad influence on purpose. And one of the best memories I have that I hold on to is watching her and my mom dance on one of these trips to Memphis on Beale Street. And it was like watching my mom in a really youthful moment, whereas my mom tends to be more refined and more, always, I think, cognizant of gaze and how other people perceive her. She just seemed so happy and so free being with her sister in like a youthful, like really pure moment where she didn't seem like my mom. She was like just Laverne's sister. So on Christmas Day around like 1998, we called my Aunt Laverne while my immediate family was in Texas, and we exchanged some laughter around the fact that we were in Texas and it was like hot, but Chicago had experienced some really, really bad snow. And we talked to her for about an hour, and that conversation kind of turned into her, just kind of telling us how much she loved us. And after we hung up about an hour later, they went into her room and she had passed. She had laid her suit out. She was meticulous in her clothing. She wanted to make sure that, and I'm sure she probably felt like her end of life was imminent. She had some health issues that we weren't aware of at the time, but she wanted to make sure that she was dressed in accordance to how she wanted to go to her homegoing. And my cousin found her, and she departed this life within about an hour of just constantly decrying and pouring into us how much she loved us. And that's the thing about the loudest, most crass person in the family. When they're gone, that silence could be deafening. And we miss her so much because she was loud and brash and proud. And sometimes people will say to me, and admittedly, sometimes my mom says it as a slight, that I act so much like my Aunt Laverne, but I wear the parts of her that I carry in my personality very proudly. If you need somebody cussed out, call me. if it's a good reason, we'll go there. And I, don't have any intentions of calling, anybody a hoe in church, but if I am, so if I'm prodded, then that's definitely a possibility. But here's to all of the aunties who are loud and brash and fun, and who can make the best caramel cakes, and who taught me very early in life that men ain't shit, and to love your family with everything you have, and to use the most colorful language that you can muster.
Hey, thank you, LaShonda. You did your Auntie Laverne proud, girl. Yes. And now we know who to call if we need somebody to, if we need you to cut somebody out for us. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for telling us about your auntie. That was beautiful. We are going to keep it moving to our next storyteller. This is her first time on this stage, so I am so excited to welcome her. I love when somebody is like, yes, I want to tell my story. So I'm so glad. She is a Georgia peach, my Spelman sister. She also works for the public library. Hey! And she has two very exciting projects. One, she will be working on a voiceover project for a science fiction novel. And two, if the spirit moves, her words, she will be narrating a documentary on Blacks and psychedelics, which is like, okay, girl. So please welcome to the stage, Makiba Dixon Hill.
You definitely have to do a little snap to that on that song. Oh my goodness, what an auntie playlist. Right, right. And then you got to do a little head nod on the side. Oh, well, you know what? It is my birthday. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But before I jump in, I definitely want to give thanks to you, Diana, especially, I mean, just by being in the room, it's just feeling so good. And you're a genius to really honor our aunties. You were giving us something that we didn't know we needed. And so I'm just so happy to be sharing space with these dynamic women who are veterans. So if you have an opportunity, check out them on YouTube, because there are some really cool stories that they have already told. So I'm so excited to hear what they're gonna say about their aunties or being aunties. It's gonna be amazing. And in the spirit of birthday celebrations, it always takes you, you know, on a reflection mode, thinking about, you know, how you want to step into the next year. And on the theme of aunties, you know, you have the auntie that served as another mother. You have the auntie that literally fed you, clothed you, bailed you out in all the ways that you can think about it. And I'm about to tell a story about an auntie that offered magic and awe. So in this season, you know, when we think about being older and now being called auntie by other people, one of the things that I think an aunt brings is that ability to be transported back to your childhood instantly when they're in the room. And this is how it was with my aunt Tisha. And it was a moment where she actually came to Spelman in Atlanta, Georgia, while I was maybe 6 to 8 years old. And so it was this moment that was the epitome of what standing in one's power and betting on themselves means. But I had no idea because I was like no older than 8 years old. All I saw was sparkles, magic, big hair, and lip singing to our girl, may she rest in eternal peace, Whitney Houston. And our Whitney Houston story with being 80s babies, you may not even know the song, but you know, I believe the children are our future. You remember I'm your baby tonight. And you also kind of will pull out my name is not Susan. But the thing that was so special is this aunt also looked like Whitney Houston. So there were moments of just being so young and watching people follow her in the mall. And I'm like, that's my aunt right there. So we're fast forwarding to maybe her senior year when she decided to enter the Miss ROTC pageant that was happening either on Morehouse's campus. Or, yes, not my name is not Susan. Y'all don't remember it. I remember really getting into, especially the telling off scene. So anyway, back to the story. There is this moment where she decides to audition to be Miss JROTC. And I forget if it was happening at Spelman and Sisters Chapel or if it was on Morehouse's campus. But there were two moments that I didn't necessarily start bringing as a connection until this moment. And it was remembering being in the den and watching my mom and my aunt rehearse. But all I saw were two women talking, laughing, fussing, laughing, fussing, and then we're eating, you know? So it was this moment where I see something happening, but then here comes the moment of the actual pageant. And she comes up being like one of the originals to lip sync for her life, because she completely did this entire talent piece lip syncing, but it had so much drama. Coming up on the stage, wearing a house coat and rollers, and then, you know, talking and hearing people that were all in college, and here I am, like the young kid with their mom. You know, in the HBCU setting, there's always that Black kid at an event that you're like, how did this child get to coronation ball? I was that person while my aunt was at Spelman. And so here we are having this moment, and then you hear her voice of her Bronx bred roommate scream from the background. And then my aunt Tisha turns around and takes off the jacket. Takes off the robe. And then you see all these sparkling colors. Her hair is done. And she starts singing, I Want to Dance with Somebody. The crowd is standing. Everybody's feeling like, oh my gosh, she did that. Oh my goodness. And I'm just like, that's my auntie. That's my auntie. That's magic. Oh my God, that's my auntie. And in that moment, it was like, wow, she's a star. Wow, I'm related to her. And dag, I can't go to Mrs. Winters with them for chicken after, because I am a kid. And it was just like this moment. So in the reflection, there became a moment of like being blooming where you're planted. You know, that story about what the worry, the thoughts around, am I good enough? How will this is so different. How will people react? Totally don't remember any of that. Barely remembered the practice, but I remembered her presence. I remember her beauty. I remember the sequence dress. It was just magic. And knowing that that is running and coursing through my veins, our family's veins, and just recognizing that auntie energy came from mommy energy, came from grandmommy energy. And it's just such a blessing that is kind of going so strong in mine, and I'm hearing it in yours. So shout out to the aunties. I love you. That's it.
Come on. Thank you. We love our auntie Sparkle. Yes, that's my favorite. And yes, we want to say happy birthday to Makiba. You know, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with us for the Auntie Show. So please show her some love. Happy birthday. We're glad you joined us your first time. I say, you know, as Black people, we all know how to tell a story. This is your first time on the platform, on the virtual platform. You know, we all been telling stories for our whole life. So we ain't new to this. So thank you for joining us tonight. Now, before I bring up the next storyteller, as I said, the show is free, but we are taking donations, and a portion of the proceeds will go to National Bailout. And so they are collective, as a Black-led, Black-centered collective of abolitionists, organizers, lawyers, and activists, building a community-based movement to support our folks and in systems of pretrial detention and ultimately mass incarceration. And so they coordinate Mama's Day bailouts, and they bail out as many Black mamas and caregivers as possible so that they can spend time with their families where they belong. It's a wonderful, they're a collective of organizations, and they are working to raise $500,000 to bail women out this Mother's Day, which is Sunday. So I'm gonna post a donation link again. Thank you to all who have made a donation already. Any little bit helps, and we are going to send a bulk of it to National Bailout. So we appreciate all donations. And so moving on, we are going to bring up our third storyteller. This is her second time on the stage as well. She was in our first show too. And so we're glad to welcome Tanika back. She's a Maryland girl. She's my friend, but now we are co-workers at the library together. She's a spicy Scorpio, Auntie Spicy. So I am so excited to bring to the stage for the second time Tanika Green.
Thank you, Diana. Hey, y'all. So I just want to ask, and this isn't a question for you guys actually to answer, but just think about it. What comes to mind when someone says they come from a large family? You thinking maybe like 5 kids, 6 kids, okay, maybe like 7 kids. Well, both of my parents come from really large families. My mother is the youngest of 11. And my father is the second youngest of 21. So my parents come from very large families. So you can imagine how many aunties I have. Now, my parents' families are pretty much opposites when it comes to the gender of the children. My dad is heavily boys, while my mom grew up with a lot of sisters. I never had the opportunity to know my grandparents. So while some of my aunties were like my bonus moms, many of them were like my bonus grandma. My aunties practically raised me along with my parents, like literally from birth. So right after giving birth to me, my mom had to have emergency surgery and couldn't really take care of me fully for the first few weeks. So with my dad's hectic work schedule and like paternity leave not being a thing in 1979, my family called my auntie Claudel, who lived in North Carolina at the time. Conversation went a little something like this. May had the baby. She has to have surgery. You need to come home and help take care of the baby. So my auntie says, well, what did she have? Because no one knew my gender until I was born. In fact, I didn't even have a girl name. My mom just knew she was going to have a boy. She wanted a girl, but she was like, with my luck, I have a boy. So no one knew my gender. So they just told her, my family, likes to play with people. So they told her, just come home and you'll find out what she had. And they legit did not tell her my gender and let her come home to Maryland to see what my mom had. So just like a good auntie, she packed up her stuff and came back to Maryland. So of course her baby sister needed her and she was gonna come help out. So she came to Maryland to take care of me. And I always wonder if I was the reason she never had kids taking care of me for the first month, because I might have given her hell. But I, in that nurturing moment, I learned so much from all of my aunties. From some of them, I learned how to cuss. While they are all very much ladies, they do cuss like sailors. And I will admit, I got it honest. My Aunt Agnes would cuss you out with no hesitation. And she did not discriminate. It didn't matter if you were young, old, she was going to cuss you out. Now, in addition to learning how to cuss, I learned some things that I didn't realize I was learning until I became an adult. Now, I'm sure some of you all can relate to this, but there are quite a few things that happened as a child that I didn't quite get until I became an adult. So when I was small, my auntie used to have this friend that would come over. Now, to protect the innocent, we're going to call him Mr. Man. So Mr. Man would come over to my auntie's house, and we'd be given specific instructions to go in the living room and watch TV. Don't come knocking on my door. So Mr. Man and my auntie would be in the bedroom for a couple of hours. Then after a while, Mr. Man would emerge with this nice grin on his face. He'd say goodbye to us kids and go on about his merry way. Now, as a kid, this was nothing to me. But now that I'm an adult and I'm around the age that my auntie was at that time, I realize now my auntie was getting her back blown out. But Mr. Man was a little bit older than her, so maybe she was blowing his back out. But yeah, I realized that there was something else going on in there. This was the same auntie that was just so much fun as a kid. And she indulged in a little reefer smoking, because that's exactly what she called it, reefer. And this is another lesson that I learned as an adult, that the reason why she was fun is because she was always high. Speaking of fun aunties, now going back to my mom being the youngest in her family, that means that my grandma and my aunties were often pregnant at the same time, but that's another story for another show. But because of this, I have a lot of cousins that I consider my bonus aunties. So they are like my aunties, but they have that fun cousin aspect to them. So my cousins, Wendy, Jeannie, Vanessa, Debbie, Maureen, Tina, they've always been my bonus aunties. Now, while I love all of my aunties dearly, my Aunt Nikki was the matriarch of my family. Now, her name is Martha, but you know, Black folks, they always give somebody a nickname. So my Aunt Mickey was basically the big mama of our family. She held us together. We spent holidays at her house. She would always have the tallest Christmas tree with lots of presents under it. She was the mother of the church. And child, Mother Crutchfield had a hat collection that would put anybody to shame. Every Sunday, she fell into Pilgrim Baptist Church dressed to the nines. You couldn't tell her nothing. She loved the Lord. In fact, she told everyone this that she encountered. She would even often break out in song in her favorite gospel song, I Really Love the Lord. Even in the middle of saying grace, when she had already been praying for 5 minutes, and we were all starving, we all had to sing this song with her. We hungry, can we get through this song? But I did love her, and praying is something that she did for everyone. She would call each and every one of us on our birthdays and pray with us on the phone. When she passed, this was something that I had difficulty dealing with, because I knew it was never going to happen again. So I thought, but now every time something good happens to me, I know she's still praying for me. And I know that all of my aunties who are still with me and those who have passed on continue to pray for me. And that really keeps me going. With my real aunties, my great aunties, my bonus aunties, my godmother, everyone who has been an influence in my life as auntie, I feel like I have gotten a little something out of everyone and a lot of love out of everyone. And I just hope that one day, or I am being that same kind of auntie for my nieces and nephews as they have been for me.
Thank you. That was great. Yes, get it, Auntie. She was in there like, y'all don't bother me. Leave me alone. I love it. Thank you for sharing your story, Nika. Thank you for the memories. And wait, yes. Lashana said, aunties keep you covered like a warm blanket. And I love that. That is so true. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we are moving on to our last storyteller of the evening. I say last, but definitely never, ever, ever least. Now listen, this is Brandon's millionth time to the stage. I'm not even sure what number. But she is basically best storyteller in all of our shows except for one. And so we love her, and we are so glad that she always wants to come back and tell a story because she got some stories. Now, this Brandis is our second Georgia Peach. She's a Delta girl. She's just started her own company called Love and Healing Work. The website is on the PowerPoint, but I'll also put it in the chat. It's very important work that she is doing right now. And so we want to send her good energy around that project. And I just want to say that Brandis and I used to work, so we met in Atlanta. We worked together at the Omni serving drinks. And I remember we went out once somewhere, and Brandis talks to everybody, so if you going out with Brandis, just be ready, right? So I remember we were out somewhere, and she said to somebody, she's like, I'm not like, I forget what she said, but she's like, I'm not like a sexy girl, I'm more like the cool auntie. And I remember being like, but we're only 23 though. But that has been the vibe that she has given in these almost 20 years that I've known her. So please welcome to the stage, Brandis Rawls.
Oh, yeah. Hey, y'all. How y'all feeling? Y'all, now, Diana, I'm gonna have to stop and pause at that one because you're right. You are so right. And I'm gonna be in every Telling Stories show. I'm gonna be in it. If I can be there, I'm gonna be here. So when you announced this show, I was like, hey, Auntie, oh yes, that is about me. I am Auntie. But it wasn't until very recently, I mean, I've had my story and I practiced it and everything, that I realized this is about your aunties and not about you being an auntie. So anyway, we're gonna have two little mini stories because I'm still gonna tell this story because aunties are so important in our lives, right? And like she said, I've been holding this auntie energy since we was 20. That's when I picked up my first baby, really. And my first friend who had a baby, that's my baby. So the story was about my second baby. My second god baby mama. I was visiting with her, and I'm gonna talk with T Brand. We're gonna find us a little quiet time and we're gonna listen. We're gonna do what another story mentioned. We're gonna listen because what I know about aunties is that they give us the confidence. We can't always talk to our parents. We can't always speak our mind, but we have minds when we are children. And our aunties help us develop our thoughts and make sure that we can communicate to our parents. They're our co-conspirators, you know. So I'm having my little time with my little god baby. And she's having trouble. She don't want to read. And I'm like, I know so. It's not so, because your T Brand has got you a subscription to the Highlights for Children, and I know you love it. So what is this you don't love to read? Foolishness. Because you used to call me on the phone. So I listened to her and she said, I don't want to upset mommy. And I said, oh Lord. I said, how do you think you upset mommy? She said, well, when I mess up or she fusses and I don't want to upset mommy. I want her to be happy. Because I want to be happy. I said, you both deserve to be happy. Yes. But what I'm hearing is, you're finna have to ride for this baby. Because what if her mother is reacting in a way that is quelling her discovery of her confidence? My charge as auntie, as godmama, as all of that, is to make sure that she has room. So if that means I need to push her mom out the way, hey, my love, that's what I'm gonna have to do. Ooh, but baby, how you do that? How you do that with your friend? With your friend that you ooh, you know where the bodies are buried with this one, right? But you have to, because that's your charge as her auntie, as her godmother, as her caretaker. And I had to. And I did. I said, hey, I need you to think about something. I don't want you to think I'm stepping over no bounds, but I need you to hear me. I just had a conversation with this baby, and I'm going to keep her confidences because your aunties are your secret keepers. But I feel like you need to evaluate how you react to when this baby is vulnerable. You just need to evaluate. You can't react as if you were talking with me or anybody else, because this is a child. And this is a special child. This is my baby. And you ain't gonna handle her no any kind of way. And that conversation turned out wonderfully. Now I was nervous, baby. I had me a drink or two beforehand. I ain't gonna even lie to you. But we as aunties ride for our babies because that's our charge. But that wasn't the charge of this story. The charge of this story was to talk about our aunties. But I couldn't not say that story because that lends me to my aunties. Because I grew up in a home with two educators. Ooh, they are keen at shaping young minds, right? Everything is a lesson. Lord, where is the fun, Jesus? The fun comes from your aunties, comes from that balance. It comes from that advocate for that child, right? They're your first secret keepers. They're the first people you tell, I don't want to disappoint my parents, but I feel some different kind of way. And I remember so many instances because my parents shaped minds in a particular order. And I love them for it. They have equipped me so well in this life. But I also had my advocates, be them my mother's sisters, my mother's aunts, my father's sisters. My father's sister is why I wear all these chains. You saw her in the first slide. She wore chains and she listened to me and she was so fly. I wanted to be like her because she didn't take no shit. And she was the first person that told me that I could be confident, that showed me I could be confident. And these are important roles that we play in our communities, in our tribes. And I've been holding on to it. She said 23. I ain't gonna count up that many. It's almost half, but it's not quite. So enjoy your time in community. Be the advocate for the children you see around you, whether they are related to you or not. Because they're gonna appreciate it, because I did. And I know you did. I know you did. Because we are more alike than we are different, aren't we? Amen. Thank you for listening to my story. I love you. I love you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we need some music. Thank you, Pam.
That's all right, honey. You don't need no
follow
music. I'm
me.
just drunk mic, honey.
You followed the assignment. That was beautiful. You weaved it all together and you showed us the importance of being an advocate. And that is what aunties are all about. And you tied it up in a beautiful bow. Thank you for your story. Thank you for sharing about you as an auntie and about your aunties. So those are all our storytellers for the evening. We want to thank all of them for joining us. So I want to say you've been on a roll with this telling stories, but we're going to take a little break because I'm proud and happy to announce that I will be doing a one-woman show with the Capital Fringe Festival called I'm Just Doing My Job this July in DC. So if you're in DC, or even if you're not in DC, because on the weekend, if you want to travel and come have some fun, and the show's gonna be basically all the jobs that I've done in my life, both paid and non-paid. It's going to be a fun, funny, great time. So please stay tuned for more information about that. Yes, Tanika said, don't forget to donate. I'll put the link one last time. So I'm just so glad that we were able to have this show. I really wanted to do it, especially right before Mother's Day, and honor all our aunties, whether you're watching or whether you told the story. So I just want to close out and say thank you. Thank you to all of you who are watching, whether this is your first telling story show you've attended, whether you've been to a few, all of them, whatever. We appreciate you because, it's a nice day out now. We can go outside, but thank you for watching us. Thank you always to Molly for being our tech person and always on the ready. Thank you to our wonderful storytellers who answered the call and were ready to tell their stories. And thank you to all of our aunties out there who have just been light and love for us. And happy Mother's Day to all. Have a great night.
You know I love music. And every time I hear something hot, it makes me want to move. It makes me want to have fun. But it's something about this joint right here. This joint right here, it makes me want to... Let it go. Can't let this thing called love get away from you. Feel free right now, go do what you want to do. Can't let nobody take it away from you, from me, from we. No time for moping around, are you kidding? And no time for negative vibes, cause I'm winning. It's been a long week, I put in my hardest. Gonna live my life, feels so good to get it right. So I like what I see when I'm looking at me, when I'm walking past the mirror. Don't stress through the night at a time in my life, ain't worried about if you feel it. Got my head on straight, I got my vibe right, I ain't gonna let you kill it. See, I wouldn't change my life.
We did it, Joe. We can talk.